My daughter-in-law saw me in front of the mirror, trying on a new lipstick. She smiled with disdain and said, "Don't bother, mother-in-law. At that age, makeup doesn't work miracles anymore." I didn't answer. I just put the mirror away, grabbed my purse, and walked out. The next day, when she saw who had come to pick me up, all the color drained from her face. But to understand how I got to that moment, I need to take you back 3 years. To the day I buried Robert, my husband, the day everything began to fall apart. My name is Eleanor, I am 67 years old, and for 42 years I lived in the same house in the Upper East Side in New York City. A house with a small garden, with classic subway tile in the kitchen, and the smell of drip coffee that Robert brewed every morning. A house full of memories, laughter, and life. When Robert died, I felt like the floor was being ripped out from under me. My 2 sons came to the funeral. Matthew, the eldest, arrived with Juliana, his wife. Richard Aguirre, the younger one, came alone from Austin, Texas, where he worked as an engineer. Matthew barely hugged me. Juliana wore dark sunglasses and a fitted black dress that seemed more appropriate for a movie premiere than a wake. 3 weeks after the funeral, Matthew appeared at my door. "Mum, we need to talk," he said. Juliana was behind him, with a smile that I then thought was sympathetic. "Don't worry. This house is too big for you alone. What if something happens to you? What if you fall?" I was still stunned by the pain. I still slept on the side of the bed that wasn't mine. I still set 2 mugs on the table every morning out of habit. "Let us stay on the second floor for a while," Matthew suggested, "just while we save up for our own place. This way we can take care of you, Mum. You won't be alone." Those words were my undoing. You won't be alone. I accepted. My God, I accepted without thinking. The first week was tolerable. Juliana went up and down the stairs with boxes. Matthew was installing Wi-Fi on their floor. I continued my routine, making my breakfast, watering my plants, watching my soaps. But in the second week, Juliana started coming downstairs more often. "Oh, mother-in-law, are you still using these old pots?" she would say, touching my Tefal cookware. "Mother-in-law, aren't you embarrassed to have these faded curtains?" Every comment was like a tiny needle. It didn't hurt immediately, but they accumulated. One day I came home from the store and found she had moved the furniture in my living room. "They were so old-fashioned, mother-in-law. I wanted to give it a more modern touch," she explained with that smile of hers. I didn't say anything. I swallowed my annoyance. I thought, she's trying to help. But when she threw away my collection of ceramic mugs that Robert had given me over the years, something inside me started to break too. "Oh, sorry, mother-in-law. Were they all chipped? I already bought you new ones, much prettier." The new ones were clear glass, cold, with no history. That night I cried in silence, hugging the only mug I had saved from the trash. But the worst was yet to come. The following months were like watching the water carry away the sand on the beach. Little by little, without me being able to stop her, Juliana no longer asked for permission for anything. She came down to my kitchen and used my things as if they were hers. She opened my refrigerator and complained. "Ugh, mother-in-law, nothing but old person food. Don't you get bored eating the same thing?" One Tuesday, I came home from the farmer's market, carrying my bags of vegetables. Juliana was in the living room painting her nails on my sofa. "Mother-in-law, you still go to the market? There are apps to have everything delivered to the house. You're not at the age to be carrying bags anymore." I gripped the handles of the bags until my fingers hurt. "I like to pick my own tomatoes," I replied with all the calm I could muster. She laughed. "Oh, how sweet. Ladies of your time and their habits. Ladies of your time." As if I were a museum relic. Matthew was almost never around. He left early, came back late. When I mentioned something about Juliana, he only said, "Mom, she just wants to help you. Don't be so hard on her." Hard on her? I could barely speak a word without my voice breaking. One day I was tidying up my room when I found something strange. Bills. Bills in my name that I hadn't authorized. Credit cards I didn't remember applying for. Purchases at department stores for amounts that chilled my blood. $47,000 in a single transaction. Another of $89,000. One more of $123,000. My hands trembled holding those papers. I went up the stairs with my heart pounding in my temples. I knocked on the second-floor door. Juliana opened it with a green face mask on. "Juliana, I need to talk to you." "Oh, mother-in-law, I'm busy. Can it wait?" "No, it's now." My voice sounded firmer than I expected. She sighed dramatically and let me in. I showed her the bills. "What is this?" "There are purchases in my name for more than $200,000. For a second, just 1 second, I saw something in her eyes. Something cold, something calculated. But it disappeared so quickly that I thought I had imagined it. "Oh, mother-in-law, don't you remember? You gave me permission. You told me to use your card because mine was blocked. Did you already forget?" "I never, mother-in-law." She interrupted me in a soft, almost maternal voice. "Sit down. Have you taken your medicine today? Sometimes when you don't take your pills, you forget things." I wasn't taking any medicine. I was perfectly lucid. But the way she said it, with that false concern, made me doubt myself for a horrible instant. "I'm going to talk to Matthew," I finally said. "Of course, mother-in-law." I spoke with him. That night, I waited for my son. When he arrived after 10 o'clock, I showed him the bills. Matthew looked them over, tired, with deep circles under his eyes. He called Juliana. She came down wrapped in a silk robe, her eyes red as if she had been crying. "My love, my mother-in-law says she didn't authorize these purchases." Juliana let out a sob, a perfect sob, from an accomplished actress. "I only wanted to help her, Matthew. She told me she needed things for the house, that she felt bad asking her children for money. I just wanted to help." Another tear rolled down her cheek. "If I did something wrong, forgive me, mother-in-law. I just didn't want you to feel bad about asking." Matthew looked at me, and in his gaze I saw that he believed her. Not me, his wife, not his mother. "Mum," he said softly, as if I were a small child. "Maybe you just forgot. You've been so stressed since Dad." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "Julie just wants to help. Please be more understanding with her." I stood there, in my own living room, holding those bills, feeling my own son choose his wife's lie over his mother's truth. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay staring at the ceiling, listening to their steps upstairs, feeling my house stop being mine. And then I heard something that chilled my blood. Juliana was talking on the phone. Her voice cut through the ceiling. I didn't understand everything, but I caught some loose words. "Soon, the right moment. She doesn't suspect anything." I got out of bed with a pounding heart. I crept upstairs barefoot until I was under their window. "Mom says we need to hurry things up." "No, he doesn't say anything. He does whatever I want." "Yes, the house will be in our name. I have everything ready." I felt the floor open beneath my feet, but I still had no idea how far their plan went. The following days were a silent nightmare. Every time I saw Juliana, I remembered those words. The house will be in our name. How? What was she talking about? This house was mine. Robert and I paid for it over 20 years. Every brick, every window, every corner held our sweat. I tried to act normal, but she noticed everything. She looked at me with those narrowed eyes, as if evaluating me. "Mother-in-law, are you feeling well? You seem nervous." "I'm fine," I lied. I started looking for my important documents. The house deeds, my will, Robert's life insurance papers. I kept them in a wooden box in my closet. When I went to check them, my heart stopped. Documents were missing. The deeds were there, yes, but there were copies that I didn't remember making. And there were new papers, with law firm logos, that I had never visited. I picked up my phone with trembling hands and called Richard, my younger son, the one who had always been more observant, calmer. "Mum, what's wrong? Your voice sounds strange." I couldn't hold back. I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since Robert's funeral. I told him everything. The bills, the comments, the conversation I had overheard, the documents. "I'm coming over," he said without hesitation. "This weekend." When Richard arrived on Saturday, Juliana put on her best face. She made him coffee, smiled at him, and asked about his job in Austin. "Brother-in-law, so good to see you. Your mother keeps us abandoned. You barely tell us about yourself." Richard just nodded, polite but distant. He had always been that way. He observed more than he spoke. That afternoon, while Juliana was out at the supermarket and Matthew was at work, Richard and I sat in the kitchen. I showed him the bills, the documents, everything. His seriousness reminded me of his father. Robert also had that way of furrowing his brow when something wasn't right. "Mum, this is wrong. Very wrong," he finally said. "These copies of the deeds, someone is using them for something. And these bills, this is fraud." "But Matthew tells me I'm forgetting things, that I gave permission." "You are not forgetting anything," Richard cut in firmly. "I know you. I know when something is bothering you. And I see the way she looks at you, Mom, as if she's waiting for you to disappear." His words gave me chills because that was exactly what I felt. On Sunday, during lunch, Richard tried to talk to Matthew. Juliana was sitting next to my older son, her hand on his, as if marking territory. "Brother, we need to talk about Mom." "What about Mom?" Matthew asked, without looking up from his plate. "I think someone is taking advantage of her." Juliana let out a light laugh. "Oh, Richard, don't start with theories. Your mother is perfectly well cared for here with us." "I'm not talking to you," Richard replied with a coldness that surprised me. The atmosphere tensed. Matthew finally looked up. "What are you implying? That there are fraudulent bills in Mom's name? That documents are being moved that she didn't authorize? That something is not right?" Juliana gripped the napkin on her lap. I saw her jaw tighten. "Matthew, are you going to let your brother accuse me like this?" And there she was again, the perfect victim. Teary eyes, a broken voice. Matthew stood up. "Richard, if you're going to come to my house and disrespect my wife, this is not your house." Richard interrupted him. "It's our mother's house." The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Matthew walked away from the table. Juliana followed him, but not before giving me a look I will never forget. Pure, concentrated venom. Richard had to return to Austin that night for his job, but before he left, he hugged me tightly. "You are not alone, Mum. I promise you. I'm going to find out what's going on." When he left, the house felt emptier than ever. The following days, Juliana intensified her strategy. Now the goal was clear: to isolate me. I had my group of friends. We met every month to knit and have tea. They were women my age, lifelong friends: Sue, Beth, and Dolly. We had raised our children together. We had buried our husbands together. One Thursday, as I was getting ready to go to our meeting, Juliana came down the stairs. "Where are you going, mother-in-law?" "To Sue's house. It's our knitting group." She made a face. "Oh, mother-in-law, again with those ladies? I always see you so tired after those meetings. You're all so old, don't you think? So much talk about aches and diseases. They depress you." "My friends don't depress me." "I'm not saying it's their fault, mother-in-law, but at your age, being tired is dangerous. What if you get dizzy on the way? What if something happens to you?" Every word was an invisible chain. "I'm fine, Juliana." I know, but Matthew worries so much. Why don't you stay here instead? I'll keep you company. We can watch a movie." I looked at my purse, my sweater, the keys in my hand, and for the first time in my life, I felt fear. Fear of leaving my own house. Fear of what might happen if I disobeyed her. I picked up the phone and called Sue. "Sue, I won't be able to go today. I feel a little tired." My friend's worried voice on the other end broke my heart. "Eleanor, are you okay? You haven't come in 2 months." 2 months? Had I stopped living for that long? "I'm fine. Just, I need to rest." When I hung up, Juliana was smiling. "That's a good decision, mother-in-law. You'll see. You'll feel better here. Calm. Resting." I sat on the sofa, in my own living room, feeling the walls close in on me. And the worst thing was that no one, absolutely no one, seemed to see what was happening. But the universe was preparing something neither of us expected. 3 weeks later, Juliana walked into my room with a smile that should have alerted me. But I was so tired, so defeated, that I could no longer distinguish the danger signs. "Mother-in-law, I have a surprise for you." I looked up from the book I was pretending to read. In reality, I had been looking at the same page for 20 minutes without processing a single word. "What surprise?" "We're going to throw you a birthday party." My birthday was in 4 days, 68 years old. Since Robert died, I hadn't celebrated any. I didn't feel like it. Birthdays are celebrated with the person who knows every one of your years, and that person was no longer here. "I don't want a party, Juliana." "Oh, mother-in-law, don't be bitter. You'll see, you're going to love it. I'll invite the neighbors, the family, your friends. It will be beautiful." Something in her tone unsettled me, but I didn't have the strength to fight. My birthday arrived with bright sunshine that contrasted with the darkness I felt inside. Juliana had been decorating the house since early morning, pink and gold balloons everywhere, a table with snacks, background music. "See, mother-in-law, everything perfect for you." The guests started arriving after 4 in the afternoon. Neighbors who barely spoke to me anymore. Some distant cousins of Matthew's. Juliana's sister with her husband. And to my surprise, Sue, Beth, and Dolly also came. "Eleanor, how good to see you." And Sue hugged me tightly. "We haven't heard from you in so long. We thought you were mad at us." "I could never be mad at you," I whispered. Juliana suddenly appeared between us. "My mother-in-law's friends. Come in, come in. There's food and drinks for everyone." The party was normal until it was time for the cake. Juliana made everyone gather in the living room. They turned off the lights. They sang Happy Birthday, off-key and cheerful. "Well, before cutting the cake," Juliana announced with a glass in her hand, "I want to say a few words about my dear mother-in-law." My stomach clenched. Eleanor is an incredible woman, a woman from another era. Light laughter from the audience. And since she's from another era, well, she has her quirks, right? More laughs. Awkward ones now. For example, "Look what I bought her as a gift." She pulled a beige knitted cardigan out of a bag, one of those only worn by ladies in retirement homes. A granny sweater because, poor thing, at her age, she doesn't even know what to wear anymore. I look at her and say, "Oh, mother-in-law, that blouse from 1985 again." Some people laughed. Others looked at the floor. I was frozen in my chair, feeling every word was a public slap in the face. But the worst was still to come. "And since we're among friends," Juliana continued, now with her phone in her hand, "let me show you some photos of my mother-in-law's youth, so you can see that she also had her glory days." The television screen turned on, and there, for everyone to see, a photo of me in a swimsuit appeared. I was 28 years old. Robert and I were in Miami on our first vacation after Matthew was born. I looked happy, young, a little chubby after the pregnancy. "Look at that! The mother-in-law in a bikini," Juliana announced amidst laughter. Well, in those days, they used those very covering swimsuits, right? More photos. Me at the wedding, in my dress that I thought was the most beautiful in the world, and that now, on that giant screen, looked outdated. Me, pregnant, with a huge belly. Me with my hair up in a style that was elegant in the 80s, but now looked ridiculous. Every photo was accompanied by a comment from Juliana. Every comment generated nervous laughter. I looked at Matthew. He was in a corner, drinking a Budweiser, saying nothing, not defending me. His silence hurt more than all his wife's words combined. "Oh, mother-in-law, don't be like that," Juliana said, seeing my face. "It's just for a little fun. You know we love you." Sue stood up. "This is not okay, Eleanor." But I couldn't take it anymore. I got up from my chair. I walked through the living room among the guests who avoided my gaze. And I went up the stairs to my room. I closed the door and collapsed onto the bed. The tears came then. Hot, bitter, humiliating. I had been ridiculed in my own home, in front of my people, in front of my neighbors, in front of my friends. And my son hadn't said a single word. I heard soft knocks on the door. "Mom?" It was Matthew. I didn't answer. "Mom, open up. Julie didn't mean to make you feel bad. It was just a joke. A joke." My public humiliation was a joke. "Go away, Matthew." "Mom?" "Go away." I heard him go down the stairs. The party continued downstairs as if nothing had happened. Music, laughter, conversations. I stayed there, in my bed, looking at the framed photos on my dresser. Robert and I on our anniversary. My sons as children. A family that no longer existed. Someone else knocked on the door. This time it was Richard's voice. "Mum, it's me. Please open up." I didn't know Richard had come to the party. I opened the door. My younger son came in, his face red with contained fury. "I just arrived. I saw everything. I saw what that woman did." He sat down next to me and hugged me. "This ends now, Mom. I swear this ends here." "I can't do anything, Richard. Matthew defends her. This is my house, but I feel like an intruder." "Well, you're going to stop feeling that way," he said with a determination I hadn't known he possessed. "Because tomorrow morning, we're going to start fighting." I didn't entirely believe him. How were we going to fight? Against what? Against my own son? But Richard was right about one thing. This couldn't continue. That night, when everyone left and the house was quiet, I found the beige cardigan Juliana had given me on my bed. I held it in my hands. It smelled new, like a department store, like mockery. And then, for the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness. I felt rage. And rage, I would soon discover, was much more useful than tears. The rage kept me awake all night. I tossed and turned in bed, reliving every moment of the humiliation, every laugh, every look of pity from my neighbours, every second of Matthew's cowardly silence. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I was already up. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I needed to know how far all this went. I went down to the kitchen. The house was a mess after the party. Dirty dishes, scattered glasses, napkins on the floor. Of course, Juliana had left everything out, expecting me to clean it, as always. But this time, I wasn't going to clean. This time, I was going to search. I remembered that Matthew had a small study on the ground floor, next to the garage. Robert used it for his work things. Matthew had turned it into his personal office when they moved in, an office he kept locked. I went to my room and looked in my jewellery box. There it was. The master key Robert had made years ago when we were constantly losing our keys. That key opened every door in the house. With my heart pounding in my ears, I went down to the study. The key turned with a soft click. The door opened. Robert's desk now had a new computer, papers neatly organized in folders, a forgotten coffee mug from days before. I started searching. The first folder seemed normal, utility bills, Matthew's bank statements. But the second folder had my name on it. With trembling hands, I opened it. And there it was. The entire plan, every monstrous detail, legal documents, draft lawsuits, a contract with a law firm in Midtown. And on the first page, written in clear, definitive handwriting, process for declaration of mental incompetence due to advanced senility. The air escaped my lungs. I kept reading. There was a step-by-step plan. Phase 1. Document episodes of forgetfulness and erratic behavior. Completed. Phase 2. Isolate from social circle to prevent contrary testimony. In process. Phase 3. Psychiatric evaluation with Dr. Velasco. Personal contact. Pending. Phase 4. Judicial request for legal guardianship. Pending. There were more pages, photographs, photos of me taken out of context. One where I was in my pajamas in the middle of the afternoon because I had felt unwell. Another where I looked confused because I had lost my glasses. Another where I was talking to myself in the garden. In reality, I was talking to my cat, but in the photo, the cat didn't appear. Each image had a date and a description. Subject wanders in pajamas at inappropriate hours. Subject shows spatial disorientation. Subject presents episodes of speech without a present interlocutor. Subject. They called me subject. As if I were an experiment. As if I wasn't a person. As if I wasn't the mother of one of them. But the worst was on the last page. A preliminary notarial document, a draft deed, where the house, my house, would pass to the name of Matthew Fernandez Castro and Juliana Montero de Fernandez as soon as my incapacity was declared. For reasons of safeguarding family heritage due to the proven incapacity of the current title holder. I felt like I was drowning. The walls of the study were closing in on me. There was also a financial analysis. They had calculated everything. The value of the house, $8,750,000 according to their estimate. My savings, $340,000 in the bank. Robert's life insurance, which I had collected and hadn't yet touched, $520,000. Everything added up, labelled, valued. I wasn't their mother. I was an obstacle, a formality, a problem to be solved. And there was more. A printed WhatsApp conversation between Juliana and someone named Mum Rosie. Juliana, it's almost ready, Ma. The lawyer says we can have guardianship in 3 months. Mum to Rosie. What about the other son? The one in Austin? Juliana. Richard doesn't matter. Matthew is the eldest and has de facto custody. The lawyer says that's enough. Mum to Rosie. And if she resists? Juliana. At her age, with the evidence we have, she doesn't stand a chance. Besides, who will believe her? We've already isolated her from her friends. She has no one. Mum Rosie. Well done, honey. Once you have the house, you can do whatever you want with her. Put her in a nursing home and forget about her. Juliana. Or even sell it and move to Beverly Hills. That's always been my goal. Tears fell onto the paper, blurring the words, but I had already read them. I couldn't erase them from my mind. A nursing home. They wanted to put me in a nursing home. They wanted to take my house, my dignity, my freedom, and leave me rotting in a small room while they sold the memories of my life. I took photos of everything with my cell phone. My hands trembled so much that several came out blurry, but I managed to capture the essential information. I put everything back exactly as it was and left the study. I locked the door, went up to my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and looked at the photos on the wall. Matthew, as a child, smiling, with his front tooth chipped from a bike fall. Matthew at his graduation, hugging me, saying, "Thank you, Mum, for everything." Matthew at his wedding, kissing my cheek, whispering, "You'll always be my priority." At what point had I lost my son, or had I never really had him? The pain was so profound I couldn't even cry. It was a black void, huge, unbearable. I called Richard. He answered on the second ring. "Mom, what happened?" I couldn't speak, just broken sobs. "I'm coming. I'm leaving right now. Hold on, Mum. I'm coming." I hung up and stayed there, hugging a pillow, feeling my whole world collapse. I had raised that child. I had given him everything. I had stayed up all night when he had a fever. I had worked double shifts to pay for his college. I had cried with pride the day he got his first job. And now that same child was planning to steal everything from me, declare me insane, lock me up, erase me. My bedroom door opened. It was Juliana. She was wearing a pink satin robe and holding a steaming cup of coffee. "Good morning, mother-in-law. Are you over your tantrum from last night?" I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her true face. No masks, no fake smiles, just pure, cold, calculating ambition. "Get out of my room," I said in a voice I didn't recognize as mine. She laughed. "Oh, mother-in-law, so dramatic. You better come down for breakfast before it all gets cold." I said, "Get out." Something in my tone made her stop. She looked at me with those narrowed eyes, evaluating me. "Whatever," she finally said, and left. When she closed the door, I pulled out my phone and looked at the photos I had taken of the documents again. The pain was still there, deep, heartbreaking. But now there was something else. There was evidence. And although I felt destroyed, although I felt I had lost my son forever, there was a small spark inside me that refused to be extinguished. The spark of a woman who was not yet ready to give up. Richard arrived 3 hours later. I heard him burst through the front door like a storm. Juliana tried to stop him. "Oh, brother-in-law, what a surprise. We didn't know you." "Where is my mother?" "In her room, but she's a little upset. I think she needs to rest." Richard walked past her as if she were invisible. He took the stairs 2 at a time. He knocked on my door. "Mom, it's me." I opened it. My son hugged me tightly, and there, in his arms, I cried again. But this time, they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of contained rage. "Tell me everything," he said, closing the door. I showed him the photos. I watched his face go from concern to disbelief, and then to a fury I had rarely seen in him. This is criminal, Mum. This is fraud. It's abuse. He couldn't find the words. It's your brother, I finished. It's Matthew. Matthew is being manipulated by that viper. But yes, he is an accomplice. And he is going to answer for this. Richard took a deep breath. We need legal help. Someone good. Just then my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello? Eleanor? Eleanor Aguirre? The voice was masculine, low, with a warm tone that felt vaguely familiar. Yes, this is me. Who is speaking? It's David. David Solomon. I don't know if you remember me. We were classmates in college. It's been 45 years. The name hit me like a wave of memories. David. The quiet guy with intelligent eyes who sat 2 rows back in literature class. The one who had asked me out 3 times. And all 3 times I had said no, because I was already dating Robert. David. Of course, I remember. How did you get my number? I saw something on Facebook. A certain Sue Medina shared a worrying post about a party. Anyway, I got curious, did a little digging, and, well, I have my contacts. He paused. Eleanor, I know this is going to sound strange, but are you okay? Because what I read worried me. Sue. My dear friend Sue had posted something about the party, about my humiliation. No, David. I'm not okay. Can we meet? Have coffee, if you want, of course. I don't want to inconvenience you. I looked at Richard, who was observing me curiously. I signaled for him to wait. What do you do now, David? I'm a lawyer, specializing in family and succession law. I have my office in downtown. The universe, I thought, has strange ways of sending you help right when you need it most. Yes, I want to see you. Can you come to my house? I need urgent help. Give me the address. I'm leaving right now. When I hung up, Richard was looking at me with raised eyebrows. Who was that? An old friend. A lawyer. An old friend who shows up right now? Your father used to say he didn't believe in coincidences. I smiled for the first time in days. He said the universe conspires when you're on the right path. David arrived an hour later. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. The 22-year-old skinny guy was now a man of almost 70, with silver hair, elegant framed glasses, and a suit that spoke of professional success. But the eyes were the same. Intelligent. Kind. Eleanor, he said with a soft smile, the years have treated you well. You're lying, I replied, but I appreciate the effort. We sat in the living room. Juliana came downstairs immediately, like a vulture smelling prey. Oh, mother-in-law, who is your visitor? A friend. And this is private, Juliana. She frowned, but went back upstairs, not without looking at David with suspicion. I told him everything, from the beginning, from Robert's death to the documents this morning. Richard filled in the details. David listened in silence, taking notes in a leather notebook. When we finished, he took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Eleanor, this is serious, very serious, but it's also solid. With the evidence you have, we can stop them. How? This house is in your name, correct? Yes, the deeds are in my name. Robert and I paid for it together, but when he died, everything was transferred to me. Then you have all the power. They can't do anything without a court order. And to get that order, they would need to prove your incapacity to a judge. With the evidence we have of their fraud, No judge would grant them that guardianship. But the debts? The cards in your name? Pure fraud. We will prove it. Every purchase, every transaction. If you didn't sign, you didn't authorize it. It's not your debt. David leaned forward. But I need you to trust me. We are going to document everything, every conversation, every move they make. And when we have enough, we hit them with everything. And Matthew? My voice broke, saying his name. David looked at me with compassion. Eleanor, Matthew is an accomplice. Maybe he's being manipulated, but he's choosing his wife over his mother. And that choice has legal consequences. Richard intervened. I want to help with everything. Whatever you need, David. Good. We need to record conversations. Eleanor, can you act? Can you pretend that everything is the same? I thought about all the times I had pretended to be fine when I wasn't. When Robert died and I had to keep functioning. When my whole body hurt, but I kept cooking, cleaning, smiling. I can act, I said. Good. Even if you can, fake a little bit of dementia. Let Juliana get overconfident. Let her speak freely, thinking you're lost. The idea turned my stomach. To pretend to be exactly what they wanted me to be. But I understood the strategy. I'll do it. David took a small recorder out of his briefcase. This is legal. You are recording conversations in your own home. Everything we capture is admissible in court. He showed me how to use it. It was tiny, the size of a USB stick. And one more thing, Eleanor. David looked me straight in the eyes. Why did you never marry me when I asked you? The question caught me by surprise. Richard coughed uncomfortably. David, relax. It's been 45 years, but I was always curious. Because I was in love with Robert, I answered honestly. And even though you were wonderful, my heart already belonged to someone else. He sighed with a melancholic smile. I imagined as much. Robert was a good man. I knew when he died. I was very sorry. Thank you. But I'm here now. And this time, Eleanor, let me help you. Let me be your ally. There was something in his eyes, something that went beyond friendship or professional help. After so many years, David was still looking at me the way he looked at me at 22, with admiration, with affection. And I, widowed, betrayed, stolen from, humiliated, felt for the first time in months that I was not completely alone. Thank you, David. Truly. When he left, Richard looked at me with a mischievous smile. That man is still in love with you. Don't talk nonsense. Mum, I'm a man. I recognize that look. And I'm glad. You need people who truly love you, not opportunists who only want your house. That night, when the house fell silent, I hid the recorder in the pocket of my robe. Tomorrow, the performance of my life would begin. And Juliana, so confident in her victory, would have no idea that the hunted had just become the hunter. The following days, I became someone I didn't recognize. An actress. A spy in my own house. I started slowly, small, forgetful moments that Juliana would notice. I left my keys in strange places. I asked the same question twice. I put on a blouse and then said, "Did I already eat breakfast?" when I clearly had. Juliana took the bait completely. "Oh, mother-in-law, forgetting things again. Have you taken your vitamins?" she said with that false concern that no longer fooled me. "Which vitamins, honey?" Now I called her honey. That word cost me every letter, but it worked. She smiled. "The ones I gave you this morning, mother-in-law. Don't you remember?" "Oh, yes, I think so." I paused, confused. Or was it yesterday? I watched her take notes on her phone, documenting, building her case, without knowing that I was documenting her. One afternoon, while I was pretending to take a nap on the sofa, I heard her talking on the phone in the dining room. The recorder was in the pocket of my sweater. Mum, I swear she's getting worse every day. Yes, this morning she put on the same blouse twice and didn't even notice. The lawyer says we almost have enough. 3 more weeks, a month maximum, and we can file the lawsuit. The psychiatric evaluation? We already have an appointment with Dr. Velasco for the 28th. He already knows what he has to put in his report. My blood boiled. A bought-off psychiatrist. But I remained still, breathing slowly, as if asleep. Richard? He doesn't matter. Matthew already spoke with a lawyer, and he told him that as the younger brother, he doesn't have the same rights. Besides, what is he going to do from Austin? By the time he finds out about everything, it will already be signed. She continued talking about her plans, selling the house, buying an apartment in Beverly Hills, going on vacation to Europe with the money from my life insurance. When she hung up, I waited 5 more minutes. Then I woke up with a start. Oh, did I fall asleep? What time is it? Juliana appeared with her serpent smile. 4 o'clock, mother-in-law. Did you sleep well? Did I eat already? Yes, you ate 2 hours ago. Don't you remember? Oh, honey, lately it's hard for me to remember things. Don't worry, mother-in-law. That's what I'm here for, to take care of you. Every word was poison wrapped in honey. That night I sent the recording to David and Richard. David responded immediately. Perfect. This is pure gold. Keep it up. We need more. And I got more. A few days later, Juliana invited her family over to see the house. She didn't tell me. They just showed up. Her mother, Rosie, a woman in her 60s with too much makeup and dyed blonde hair. Her sister, Daisy, and her brother-in-law, a fat guy who would sweat even at the North Pole. I was in my room when I heard them arrive. I walked down the stairs slowly, with the recorder hidden in the pocket of my skirt. Oh, mother-in-law, Rosie hugged me with false familiarity. So nice to finally meet you. Julie talks about you a lot. The pleasure is mine, I lied. Look, Mum, Daisy, this is the dining room. Juliana was giving the tour as if she were the owner. We're going to put a new table here. This one is too old. It's the table where we raised our children, I said softly. Juliana ignored me. And we're going to completely remodel the living room, change the furniture, paint the walls, put down a new rug. Her mother nodded excitedly. Oh, honey, your house is going to be so beautiful. Mom, please, Juliana whispered, glancing at me. But then she smiled. Well, mother-in-law understands, right? At her age, these things don't matter that much to her. I bit my tongue. Act, Eleanor. Act. Yes, honey, whatever you say. They went up to the 2nd floor. I followed slowly like a tired old woman. I wanted them to think I was harmless, weak, controllable. On the 2nd floor, Juliana opened the door to the room that had been Matthew's when he was a child. It was now their marital bedroom. We sleep here. When the mother-in-law leaves, this will be the master bedroom. I'm leaving? I asked in a trembling voice. Rosie patted my shoulder. Oh, Mrs. Eleanor, Julie was saying that maybe you would be more comfortable in a place where they can take better care of you. You know, with nurses, activities for people your age, a nursing home. They were talking about putting me in a nursing home in my own house. Maybe so, I said submissively. Maybe it's for the best. Daisy, the sister, intervened. The good thing's that when they sell this house, they're going to get good money. How much did you say it would be worth, Julie? Like $9 million? 8.5 million, according to the estimate. But yes, it's a good investment. They were talking about my house as if I were already dead. But I stayed there, silent, recording everything. When they left, I went up to my room and cried. Not out of sadness, but out of contained fury. Out of momentary helplessness, but also something else. Determination. I sent the audio to David. His response made me smile for the first time in days. We've got them. We're almost ready. That same week, something happened that I didn't expect. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard voices from the second floor. An argument. Matthew and Juliana. I don't know if we're doing the right thing, Matthew was saying. Now you tell me this. After everything we've planned. She's my mother, Juliana. Your mother is old. She can't take care of herself. We're doing her a favor. A favor? Or we want her house? There was a silence. Then Juliana's voice, cold as ice. Matthew, we decided this together. Your mother has a huge house she doesn't use. We need an asset. What's wrong with that? But declaring her incapacitated when she's not. And what do you suggest? Waiting until she dies? She could live for 20 more years. 20 years living as freeloaders. 20 years without anything of our own. But it's fraud, Yuli. It's strategy. Besides, you already signed the papers with the lawyer. You gave your statement. You're in it, my love. There's no turning back. I didn't hear any more. I went up to my room silently. My son had doubts, small, late doubts, but he had them. That night I called David. Is it time? I asked. Almost. I need one more thing. We need evidence of the lover. What lover? Eleanor, please. No one does all this just for a house. She has plans, and I'm sure they include someone other than your son. He was right. The next day, I set out to watch her. Juliana went out to the gym every afternoon, always dressed up, always perfumed, and she always returned 3 hours later, with her hair intact and not a drop of sweat. I asked Sue for help. My friend, bless her, immediately agreed. Eleanor, count on me. That woman is going to pay for everything she's done to you. Sue followed her in her car. Juliana didn't go to any gym. She went to a hotel, the Waldorf Astoria in Beverly Hills. Sue sent me photos. Juliana entering arm in arm with a man, a guy about 40 years old, slicked back hair, expensive suit, a salesman's smile. 3 hours later, they left. He kissed her on the lips before getting into a Cadillac Escalade. Sue investigated the plates. The car was registered to Steve Ortiz Paniagua. A quick Google search revealed what we needed. A businessman wanted in Dallas for real estate fraud. A professional con artist. I sent everything to David. His response was immediate. Perfect. We can move now. Are you ready? I looked at my reflection in the mirror. The same woman who had tried on that lipstick weeks ago, but different, with fire in her eyes. I'm ready, I replied. And the next day, Juliana saw someone arrive whom she never expected. It was Tuesday, 10 o'clock in the morning. Juliana was in the living room watching a show on television, eating grapes from my fruit bowl with her feet on my coffee table. She heard the doorbell and went to open it with annoyance. Who could it be now? She opened the door and her face went white. David was there in his impeccable suit, his leather briefcase, and a professional smile. Good morning. I'm looking for Mrs. Eleanor Aguirre. Who are you? Juliana stammered. David Solomon, lawyer. I'm here to see my client. I came down the stairs at that moment. I had planned my entrance. I was wearing a grey dress that made me look dignified, my hair pulled back, and I had even put on a little makeup. I wanted to look strong. "David, please come in," I said, with a firmness that made Juliana take a step back. "Client?" Juliana repeated. "Mother-in-law, what is this man talking about?" "Sit down, Juliana. You need to hear this too." We sat in the living room. David opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Mrs. Juliana Montero, I am here on behalf of Mrs. Eleanor Aguirre to notify you that we have filed a formal lawsuit for fraud, identity theft, and misappropriation of property." Juliana laughed, a nervous, high-pitched laugh. "What? This is ridiculous. Mother-in-law, what did this man tell you? Who is he?" "He is my lawyer," I replied calmly. "And he has evidence of everything you've done." "Evidence? What are you talking about?" David placed copies of the fraudulent bills on the table. $847,000 in unauthorized purchases, credit cards opened in my client's name, without her consent. "This constitutes financial fraud, Mrs. Montero." She gave me permission. "Right, mother-in-law? You gave me permission." "No, Juliana, I never did." My voice did not tremble. David continued. "We also have documentation of a plan to declare my client mentally incapacitated with the goal of taking possession of her property." He placed copies of the documents I found in the study on the table. Documents that were prepared without Mrs. Aguirre's knowledge or consent. All the colour completely abandoned Juliana's face. "Furthermore," David pulled out his phone, "we have recordings." He played the audio. Juliana's voice filled the room. "She's getting worse every day. We almost have enough. 3 more weeks and we can file the lawsuit." Then, the audio from her family's visit. "When they sell this house, they're going to get good money. 8.5 million. Juliana jumped up. "That's illegal. You can't record me without my permission." "Actually, we can," David replied calmly. "The recordings were made by the owner of the house on her own property. They are completely admissible in court." "Matthew!" Juliana screamed. "Matthew, come down now!" My son came running down the stairs. He was shirtless, in sweatpants, looking like he had just woken up. "What's going on? Who's yelling?" David stood up and extended his hand. "David Solomon, your mother's lawyer." Matthew did not shake his hand. He looked at me. "Mum." "Sit down, son. You need to hear this too." For the first time in months, I used a tone that allowed no argument, the same tone I used when he was a child and did something wrong. Matthew sat down. David went over everything again. The fraud, the plans, the recordings. Matthew listened, his eyes widening with every word. "Additionally," David continued, pulling out more papers, "we have requested the immediate freezing of all fraudulent credit cards. The debts will be transferred to the name of the person who made the purchases, Mrs. Juliana Montero." "You can't do that," Juliana shrieked. "Yes, we can. And we did it this morning at 8 o'clock. David handed her an official document. "We have also presented a temporary eviction order while the case is investigated." "Eviction?" Matthew found his voice. "Mum, are you kicking us out of the house?" I looked at him. My son, my firstborn, the child I had carried in my arms, who I had comforted in his nightmares, who I had applauded in every achievement. "Matthew, you were planning to declare me insane to steal my house." I wasn't." "Yes, you were," I interrupted him. "I found the documents. I heard the conversations. I saw the plans." My voice broke slightly. "How could you?" "Mum, I just wanted to—" "What did you want?" To put me in a nursing home? To sell your father's house? To erase me?" Juliana intervened, with perfect tears rolling down her cheeks. "Matthew, my love, this is a misunderstanding. Your mother is confused. That man is manipulating her." "Shut up!" Matthew's voice thundered in the room. For the first time, he yelled at his wife. "Shut up, Juliana." He stood up, trembling. He looked at me with glassy eyes. "Mum, I didn't want to go that far. Julie said it was the only way to secure our future, that you wouldn't understand that it was better this way for everyone." "For everyone? Or for her?" David pulled out the last cards, the photos of Juliana entering the hotel with Steve. "And finally, we have evidence that Mrs. Montero is maintaining an extramarital relationship with Mr. Steve Ortiz Paniagua, a known con artist wanted in Dallas." The photos fell onto the table like bombs. Matthew saw them. 1, 2, 3. Juliana kissing another man. Juliana laughing with another man. Juliana leaving a hotel with another man. "Matthew, I can explain." Juliana started. But Matthew wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at me, and in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Guilt, shame, pain. The court order establishes that both Mr. Matthew Fernandez and Mrs. Juliana Montero must vacate the second floor of this property within a period of no more than 72 hours while the investigation is carried out, David read from the official document. 72 hours? Juliana sprang up. "This is abuse. We have nowhere to go." "You should have thought about that before you planned to steal the house from a 68-year-old woman," David replied without emotion. Juliana looked at me with pure distilled hatred. You played the fool all this time? You set a trap for us." "No, Juliana. I defended myself, which is not the same thing." "Matthew, do something. She's your mother. Convince her." But Matthew was still looking at the photos. He picked one up in his hands, the photo of Juliana kissing Steve. "How long?" he asked with a broken voice. "Matthew, it's not—" "How long?" 6 months, Juliana whispered. The silence was deafening. 6 months? 6 months you've been cheating on me while planning to steal everything from my mother? I wasn't going to steal it. It was for us, for our future. Our future? Matthew let out a bitter laugh. Did our future include that guy? Juliana didn't answer. She didn't need to. The truth was written all over her face. Matthew slumped onto the sofa. He covered his face with his hands. And he cried. I wanted to approach him, hug him, comfort him as I did when he was a child. But I stayed where I was, because my son had made decisions, and decisions have consequences. David put away his documents. You have until Friday at 6 o'clock in the afternoon to vacate. If you do not comply voluntarily, the police will come to execute the order. I suggest you cooperate. I accompanied him to the door. Thank you, David. It's just the beginning, Eleanor. The hard part comes now. When I closed the door, I stood there for a few seconds, taking a deep breath. Behind me, Juliana was screaming. Matthew was crying. Chaos had erupted. But for the first time in months, I wasn't crying. For the first time in months, I was standing. And though my heart bled for my son, for the broken family, for everything lost, I also felt something I had forgotten. Dignity. The next 3 days were a silent hell. Juliana packed her things violently, throwing clothes into suitcases, breaking what she couldn't take. Matthew moved like a zombie, not speaking, not looking at anyone. On Thursday night, my son knocked on my bedroom door. Mom, can I come in? My heart constricted. Come in. He entered with slumped shoulders, swollen eyes. He looked 10 years older than a week ago. Mum, I don't even know where to begin. Start with the truth, Matthew. He sat on the edge of my bed, where he had sat so many times as a child when he was scared or sad. Juliana convinced me that we were doing it for your own good. She told me you were losing your memory, that you needed special care, that the house was too much for you. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. And I wanted to believe her. Why? Because it was convenient for me, Mum. Because I wanted the house. Because I was tired of not having anything of our own. And was it worth destroying me to get it? No, God, no. But when you get into something like that, it's easier to justify it every day. One more step, one more lie, and suddenly you're so deep you don't know how to get out. You could have gotten out at any moment. You could have talked to me. I know, and I didn't, and I will carry that for the rest of my life. He looked at me with pleading eyes. Mum, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did is unforgivable. But I need you to know that I never stopped loving you, even if what I did says otherwise. I wanted to hug him, to tell him everything was okay, but I couldn't, because everything was not okay. Matthew, you are my son, and you always will be. But I need time. I need to heal from what you did to me. He nodded, crying silently. I understand. I'm leaving tomorrow. I don't know where yet. Richard offered for me to stay with him for a few days while I find something. And Juliana? She's going with her mother. I already filed for divorce. His voice broke. It was all a lie, Mum. Everything. I don't even know if she ever loved me. I'm sorry, son. I'm more sorry. For you. For everything. He stood up to leave. At the door, he stopped. Dad would be disappointed in me. Yes, I replied honestly. He would be. But he would also believe you can be better. When he left, I cried. Not for Juliana. Not for the house. I cried for my son. For the boy he was and the man he had become. On Friday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Juliana and Matthew finished moving their things out. Richard had come from Austin to help with the boxes. Juliana did not speak a word to me. She just gave me one last look of pure hatred before getting into an Uber with 6 suitcases. Matthew said goodbye with a long, desperate hug. I'm going to make it up to you, Mum. I don't know how, but I will. When they left, the house fell into a silence I hadn't felt in 2 years. Richard stayed with me that night. We ordered Chinese takeout and sat in the living room, my living room, without the constant noise from upstairs. How do you feel, Mum? Tired, sad, but also liberated. You did good. Dad would be proud. Your father would never have let us get to this point. No, but Dad is not here anymore, and you had to fight alone, and you won. 2 weeks later came the court hearing. David had prepared me. It's just a formality. With all the evidence we have, the judge will rule in your favor. The courtroom was small, cold, smelling of old paper and reheated coffee. I was sitting next to David. On the other side, Juliana with her lawyer, a nervous man who was sweating despite the air conditioning. Matthew did not come. His lawyer represented him. He had accepted all the blame in exchange for a lighter sentence. The judge, a man about 60 years old with thick glasses, reviewed the documents. Well, I have reviewed the case. Mrs. Montero, do you have anything to say in your defense? Juliana stood up. She was wearing a navy blue suit, her hair pulled back, discreet makeup, the perfect image of innocence. Your Honor, it was all a misunderstanding. I only wanted to help my mother-in-law. She was confused. She was forgetting things. Is that why you opened credit cards in her name without authorization? The judge asked. She gave me verbal permission. And is that why you planned to declare her incapacitated to take possession of her property? Juliana stammered. It was my husband's idea. We have recordings where you clearly orchestrate the entire plan, Mrs. Montero. The judge looked at his papers. We also have evidence that you were maintaining an extramarital relationship while committing these frauds. Is that correct? Juliana's silence was answer enough. The judge took off his glasses. Mrs. Montero, what you did is called financial abuse of an elder. It is a serious crime. David stood up. Your Honor, we also want to present additional evidence about Mrs. Montero's accomplice, Mr. Steve Ortiz. He placed a thick file on the table. The judge reviewed it, and his expression hardened. Is this the same Steve Ortiz Paniagua wanted for fraud in Dallas? The same, Your Honor. We have reason to believe that Mrs. Montero planned to flee with him once the property was obtained. Juliana turned pale. That is not true. We have text messages, David continued relentlessly. He projected WhatsApp conversations between Juliana and Steve onto a screen. Juliana, it's almost ready, 3 more weeks and the house is ours. Steve, what about your husband? Juliana, that fool doesn't suspect a thing. Once I have the money, I'm divorcing him, and we're going to Cancun as planned. Steve, you're a bad girl. I love it. The judge read message after message. The courtroom was in absolute silence. Anything else you would like to add, Mrs. Montero? Juliana did not reply. She was crying, but no one believed her tears anymore. The judge closed the folder with a sharp bang. I rule in favor of Mrs. Eleanor Aguirre on all charges. Mrs. Juliana Montero must pay the sum of $847,000 for financial fraud, plus damages and fees to be established in a later hearing. An arrest warrant is issued for Mr. Steve Ortiz Paniagua. Mrs. Chaos. Montero will face criminal charges for fraud, falsification of documents, and financial elder abuse. The gavel struck the table. The sound echoed in my chest. I had won. Juliana was escorted out of the room by 2 officers. Before leaving, she turned to look at me. In her gaze, there was no more arrogance, only defeat. David hugged me. It's over, Eleanor. You won. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted, empty. We left the courthouse into the bright afternoon sun. Richard was waiting for me outside. And? We won, I said simply. He hugged me tightly. You deserve it, Mom. You deserve everything. That night, back in my house, I sat in the living room with a mug of drip coffee. The house was silent. The silence that used to terrify me now felt like peace. My phone rang. It was a message from Matthew. Mum, I heard the result. I'm happy for you. I know I don't deserve anything, but will I ever be able to see you again? I read it 3 times. My fingers trembled over the keyboard. Someday, son. But not today. It wasn't forgiveness. But it wasn't a definitive goodbye either. I looked around. My house, my living room, my memories. Everything was still here, and so was I. But the story wasn't over yet. 3 months after the trial, my life had found a new rhythm, different, quieter. I returned to my knitting meetings with Sue, Beth, and Dolly. They welcomed me with long hugs and tears of joy. Eleanor, you're a warrior, Sue said. You taught us all a lesson. I didn't want to be a warrior. I just wanted to be left alone. Well, you succeeded, and with style. Juliana was facing criminal trial. Her lawyer had tried to negotiate, but David was relentless. Steve, her accomplice and lover, was arrested in South Beach, Florida, trying to leave the country. Now both faced years in prison. The fraudulent debts were cancelled from my name and transferred to Juliana. $847,000 that she would have to pay off with community service and a payment plan that would take her decades. Poetic justice, David called it. But the hardest part wasn't the trial or the lawyers or the papers. The hardest part was Matthew. My son had fallen into a deep depression. Richard called me every week to give me updates. "He's in therapy, Mum. He's trying to process everything. He lost his marriage, he almost lost his mother, and he discovered he was a puppet. How is he financially?" "Surviving. He got a new job. He's living in a small apartment. He's paying off his debts, little by little." "Has he asked about me?" "Every day." One October afternoon, 6 months after everything, Matthew appeared at my door. He hadn't called. He just rang the doorbell. When I opened it, I barely recognized him. He had lost weight. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired, defeated, small. "Mom." His voice broke as soon as he saw me. "Matthew, I know I have no right to come. I know I should have called, but I needed to see you." I let him in. We sat in the living room, with 3 feet of distance between us that felt like an abyss. "I've been in therapy," he began, "twice a week, trying to understand how I became the person I was to you." "And what have you discovered?" "That I was weak. That I let ambition and manipulation turn me into a monster. That I betrayed everything Dad taught me." He wiped his tears. "That I betrayed the person who loved me most in the world." My heart contracted, but I didn't say anything. I needed to hear it all. "I'm paying the debts. All of them, even if it takes me years. The lawyer says I have to pay $140,000 in damages. I'm saving every dollar." "I don't need your money, Matthew." "But I need to pay it. I need to do something, Mum. Anything." We remained silent. A heavy silence, loaded with everything unsaid. The broken, the lost. "Why did you come today?" I finally asked. "Because it's your birthday." I had forgotten. 69 years old, a year after that humiliating party. Matthew pulled a small box out of his backpack. "I brought you something, it's not much. I don't have much money, but—" I opened the box. Inside was a mug, a hand-painted ceramic mug with little blue flowers. It was crude, imperfect, clearly made by inexperienced hands. "I made it myself," Matthew explained. "I took a ceramics class. I remembered that Juliana threw away your mugs, the ones Dad gave you, and I thought I could start replacing them, one at a time, for as long as it takes me to earn your forgiveness." I took the mug in my hands. I felt its uneven weight, its rough texture, the imperfect love put into every detail, and I cried. "Mum, don't cry, please." "I'm not crying out of sadness, Matthew. I'm crying because this mug is the first real thing you've given me in years. Real. Without interest, without ulterior motives, just because you wanted to give me something." He knelt in front of me, like when he was a child asking for forgiveness for breaking a window or getting bad grades. "Mum, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did has no excuse. But if you give me a chance, even a small one, I will spend the rest of my life proving that I can be the son you deserved." I looked at him. I really looked at him. And I saw 2 people. The man who betrayed me, and the boy I once was everything to. Matthew, I can't forgive you today. Maybe I can't forgive you tomorrow, but I want to try. Really? Really, but with conditions. Whatever they are. First, therapy. Not just for you. Family therapy. With you, with me, and Richard. We need to heal this properly. I accept. Second, boundaries. If we rebuild a relationship, it will be slowly, with respect, with honesty. I understand. And third, never, ever choose money over people again. Because money runs out, Matthew. But the people you love, they are irreplaceable. I know that now. I learned it the hard way. I hugged him, a short, cautious hug. But it was a start. When he left, I was left with the mug in my hands. It was ugly. It was imperfect. It was beautiful. 2 weeks later, David came over for dinner. I made him meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Simple, honest food, the way I've always known how to cook. Eleanor, this is delicious, he said, wiping his mouth with a napkin. My husband used to say I cooked better when I was at peace. And are you at peace? I thought about the question. I thought about everything I had lived through. The pain, the betrayal, the fight, the victory, the difficult forgiveness. I'm getting there, I replied. David looked at me with that gaze he had never stopped having. Eleanor, I know it's soon. I know you're still healing, but I need to tell you something I kept silent for 45 years. David, let me finish. He took my hand across the table. I never stopped thinking about you. I got married. Yes, I had a life. But when my wife died 5 years ago, and when I saw you again a few months ago, I knew. I knew that some stories deserve a second chapter. David, you don't have to answer now. I just need you to know that I'm here, that I'm not going anywhere, and that if someday, when you're ready, you want to give a chance to this old fool who loved you since he was 22, I'll be waiting. I looked at him, his grey hair, his wrinkles, his kind eyes, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Possibility. I don't promise you anything, I finally said, but I'm not saying no either. He smiled. It's more than I expected. That night, after David left, I went up to my room. I passed the door of the second floor, now empty, silent. I went into my room and stood in front of the mirror, the same mirror where it all began. I picked up the lipstick, the same coral lipstick I had put on that day. I applied it slowly, carefully, looking into my own eyes. And I saw a different woman, not younger, not more perfect, but stronger, more dignified, more herself. Makeup doesn't work miracles, I said to my reflection. But recovered dignity, that transforms everything. I smiled, and for the first time in a long time, the smile was genuine. I learned many things in those painful months. I learned that family doesn't always mean loyalty, that sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who can hurt you the most. I learned that it's okay to set boundaries, that saying no doesn't make you a bad person, that defending yourself is not selfishness. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, that you can forgive and still protect your peace, that you can love someone from a distance while you heal. I learned that age doesn't make you weak, that at 69 years old, you can be stronger than ever. That grey hair is wisdom and wrinkles are maps of survived battles. And I learned that it's never too late to start over. My house is at peace now. Richard comes every month to visit me. Matthew comes every 2 weeks, slowly rebuilding what he destroyed. David stops by for coffee on Thursdays and makes me laugh with stories of his absurd cases. I went back to watering my plants. I went back to cooking for my friends. I went back to wearing coral lipstick without anyone telling me that at my age, I can't. Because the truth is this: true wealth is not in what you possess. It's in what you don't allow them to take from you. Your dignity, your voice, your right to live in peace, and no one, absolutely no one, can take that from you. Unless you let them. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel rage, hope, or simply reminded you that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, leave me your comment. Tell me, where are you listening from? Have you lived through something similar? Do you know someone who needs to hear that they deserve respect? Give it a thumbs up if you think Eleanor did the right thing, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories of women and men who got up when everyone thought they were defeated. Because everyone has a story, and all of them deserve to be told. Thank you for joining me in this story. Until the next story, Aunt Rosie.